The religious have a ton of reasons why the things they believe are true, but none of them ever stand up to any kind of rational scrutiny. And this one isn't going to do any better. So, why do they do it? Well, I hope we can shed some light on that today. Stay tuned. We're going to take a look at something by Sean McDowell, who apparently wants to explain why Jesus is God. I've got a lot of questions, and hopefully by the end of this you will too. It's really hard to get the religious to understand what they're doing wrong, and hopefully this will go a short way toward explaining it, even though I know they just won't care. So let's get to it. Take it away, Sean.
5 reasons to believe Jesus is God in one video.
Okay, but before we let him get at it, I wanted to pause and explain something. Normally, anything like this, anything short, I do it as a Patreon exclusive short. This is a 1 minute video, and there isn't usually a lot of meat in that, but for this one, I'm making an exception. I think there's a lot more general interest type stuff here, so I'm going to let it go to the main channel. Besides, I'm never sure if anybody's watching the extra videos over on Patreon anyhow. I wish somebody would let me know.
Number 1, Jesus claimed to be God.
That doesn't mean that he was God, though. If I claim to be Elvis, that doesn't make me Elvis. Claims are just claims. They aren't reality unless they can be demonstrated to be true objectively in the real world. Let me explain what I think is going on here and why I'm not going to just let it fly. See, Sean is an apologist, and as such, he mostly makes videos appealing to those who already believe. Why? Because those people don't ask any difficult questions and they accept all the buildup on blind faith. All of the extraneous nonsense that can't be rationally justified up front, that's already baked in when you accept all of these ideas uncritically. The religious aren't the only ones that do that, of course. Flat earthers do it too. They want to talk to other flat earthers because those people aren't going to cause problems. They already believe it after all. What I keep pointing out in these videos, though, is that you can't really rely on the already gullible for your arguments. You have to be able to back it up to people who don't take your basic claims seriously. And in this case, that's me. So we're going to start right here. I don't care what anybody claims. I care what they can prove. Go back to step 1 and address that.
In John 8:58, Jesus says, "Before Abraham was born, I am."
Good for him. So what? In the Harry Potter novels, Dumbledore told Harry Potter that he was the chosen one. Big deal. That isn't something to base your life on. I've immediately got a lot of questions here. If we go and look at John, whoever the hell wrote John, they had kind of a weird take on Jesus to begin with. John wanted to turn Jesus into the perfect magic man by making claims that none of the other gospel writers made and excluding things from the other gospels that would have made Jesus seem weak or human. So we're already left with a lot of reasons to doubt John, not the least of which is that John wasn't written by John. All of the Gospels were written anonymously, and we have no reason at all to think that whoever wrote it had any knowledge of any real, verifiable, demonstrable Jesus. So, my real question here is, who cares what John said? Explain that one to us, Sean.
The I am is a reference to Exodus 3:14 when Yahweh appears to Moses.
And here's something else that the religious don't seem to understand. I had to explain this in passing to a theist recently. All of the books of the Old Testament, at least the books that would later become the Old Testament, they were all very, very well known to the Jewish people at the time. Therefore, it's hardly a stretch to think that the gospel writers, whoever they might have been, who were trying to cast this Jesus guy as the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy, couldn't have just thrown those ideas into their narrative as a means to convince people. That seemingly is something that the religious have never run through their filters, because the instant that that gets brought up, they always vanish in a puff of ignorance. They don't have an answer for that. Funny how that works.
Second, Jesus allowed people to worship him. In Hebrews 1:6, we have the angels worshiping Jesus as God, and he allowed the apostles to worship him too.
Allowed. And that's kind of a problem too. See, I, as a real person, would never allow anybody to worship me, or certainly I wouldn't encourage it, because that's an insanely egotistical thing to do. That means that Jesus either had some serious mental problems and had some issues with self importance, or the writers of the Gospels wanted to portray him that way. Yeah, sorry, but any person, or potentially any god, that is looking to get their ass kissed, they're not worth my adoration at all. They ought to be above that, and if they're not, screw them. I know that's going to hurt the religious fifis, but yeah, screw them too. I am trying to figure out what's factually correct here, not what makes anybody feel good. Again, we're not starting with the same preconceived religious notions that the religious have. We are going back to the beginning, and we are expecting them to justify every last bit of their beliefs. And Sean here, he's not doing a good job.
Third, Jesus had the attributes of God.
And how do you know that? Because here's where it all completely falls apart. How do you know anything about God at all? Not what do you believe, not what do you have faith in, not what you've read in a book of mythology. What do you know, and how do you know it? This is something that the religious can't handle at all. The so-called attributes of God are all just invented because you can't show how you've come by them in any rational way. If I want to know what a cow is like, I have to go and look at the cow and make observations about its physical characteristics and its behavior, things like that. I can't just sit there with my eyes closed and go, the cow is like this. No, because there's been no observation or other demonstrable way to determine what's actually going on, and your claims don't pass any kind of critical muster. But it says so in the Bible. Well, I don't care. That's irrelevant. You're just moving the goalposts. How did the people who wrote the Bible know any of this? How do you demonstrate that? Well, God told them. Yeah, prove it. All of this comes down to blind faith, and blind faith doesn't mean anything. Anybody can have blind faith in anything, no matter how bizarre it might be. If you can't back up your claims in any demonstrable way, then nobody else ought to take you seriously. And you shouldn't believe it either. But let's see what his point was. Maybe I'm reading him all wrong, but really I don't think so.
For example, he could know what people were thinking. Even demons don't know this.
That's not the slam dunk that you seem to think that it is, Sean. You know who else can know what people are thinking? Yeah, characters in books of fiction. All of your faith and wishful thinking aside, there is no reason at all to think that Jesus is anything else. I know that's going to hurt your feelings, but too bad. We're looking at these claims from beyond the Christian echo chamber that he's after. So we have no evidence of demons, which makes that claim about as meaningful as saying even Bigfoot can't do that. I mean, really, what are we left with here that he can show is actually true? Not a damn thing. This is just Christian story time for gullible people. Sean, you just have to do a whole lot better than this.
So he knows what the woman was thinking in John 4 at the well, and he knows what the religious leaders were thinking in Mark chapter 2.
Yeah, but the story in John isn't in any of the earliest manuscripts. It was a later story inserted by Christians centuries later. This isn't something that Jesus ever demonstrably said. I mean, there's nothing that Jesus ever demonstrably said. There's nothing in the Bible that you can prove Jesus said at all, because there's no evidence that Jesus was real in the first place. It isn't something that was recorded by any kind of verifiable eyewitnesses. This is something that somebody dreamed up down the line, and you're taking it seriously on blind faith. Except, Sean knows that it isn't reliable. He has said in the past that this passage, John 4 verses 1 through 11, it shouldn't be taken seriously or have any doctrinal beliefs based on it. So what's going on here? Is this just a case of convenient memory, or is it a matter of it's a convenient story and nobody's going to know if he slips?
Fourth, Jesus did miracles.
Really? Prove it. Because this goes back to just being unsubstantiated claims made in the Bible. Harry Potter did miracles too, at least in the form of magical spells. So you'd better bow down and kiss his ass, or he's gonna smite you with the killing curse. It says so in the book, right? Well, it doesn't, but use your imagination. He hasn't proven any of this, and let's be really honest here, he doesn't care. It's why he's talking to people who are already primed to blindly believe. It's a whole lot easier that way. The problem is that ease doesn't make truth, and truth is all that matters. You have to prove these things objectively, and we all know Sean couldn't do a thing if he tried.
I think Elijah, Paul, and Peter did miracles, but Jesus did them by his own authority rather than appealing independently to God.
It's all just stories in a book of mythology. You're going to have to do a whole lot better than that. I mean, let's stop for a moment and think about this. His video is called 5 Reasons Jesus is God. Well, who is he talking to? Certainly it can't be skeptics, because we're not going to take the empty rambling about a book of make-believe seriously. We're going to expect external evidence, and he's got none of that to offer. He's also not trying to convince Christians that Jesus is God, because they already believe it. They don't need 5 reasons because they already have blind faith. No, what he's really doing here is trying to provide comfort to the believers so they can say, see, we were right all along. It's pointless, it really is, but this is how he makes a living. He's a con man, just like all the rest. And I know there are people out there who like Sean McDowell, but I'm not one of them. If any of them want my respect, they need to jettison all the faith, jettison all the blind belief, and just go back to the beginning and show with evidence that all of their beliefs are objectively true. No excuses, no double talk, just do it. And they're not even trying. I wonder why.
And fifth, forgiveness.
Okay, this one isn't going to go well because he's still assuming that all of his beliefs actually make some kind of sense, and he's wrong. Like it says on the screen, he believes that Jesus forgave sins against God. Okay, says who? I mean, I can say, I forgive you in the name of the flying spaghetti monster. So what? You still haven't verified that God even exists, or that sins are a thing, or that Jesus was ever real. All you're doing is assuming that your fanciful stories in a book of mythology are true, and that's not a rational way to look at the world. That's delusion. Nobody should accept this until you can defend it by providing objectively verifiable evidence. You got any of that? I didn't think so. Because again, I'm not approaching this with faith. Nobody should. Faith is not something to be proud of. He purported to be able to provide 5 reasons that Jesus was God, and so far he's only made a fool of himself and preached to the desperate choir. You know, the ones that give him money. Maybe there's a conflict of interest in there someplace. I don't know. You tell me.
I can forgive someone who offends me, but Jesus in Mark chapter 2 forgave people who directly it was believed sinned against God.
I forgive you in the name of Allah, or Zeus, or Odin, or invisible, intangible, universe-creating pixies. What difference does it make? Beyond the fact that you haven't demonstrated that Jesus ever existed at all, or that any of these stories are true, who cares what he supposedly said? People say stupid stuff all the time. That doesn't mean that you ought to believe them. I forgive you on behalf of my imaginary friend. Yeah, okay, that's just stupid. It really is. Who do you think you're going to impress with this crap? Oh, right, dumb religious people.
For these 5 reasons and more, we have good reason to conclude that Jesus is God.
Only if you're a complete idiot who believes things for no solid, evidential, epistemically valid reason. Only if you rely entirely on faith. And nobody ought to do that. Nobody at all. This is where the problems come in. It's where all of these con men or women go intellectually sideways. They only talk to people who already believe, so they don't have to provide any facts to show that any of it is true. They don't want to have rational conversations with intelligent people who aren't going into it on faith and fifis. There is no money in that. Instead, they appeal to the gullible gits who just want to get their biases confirmed, and that's nothing to be proud of. Not that they care because money, money. Lying for the Lord is a time-honored tradition among the religious. The very first priest lied to the very first congregant, even if they thought it might be true. It's sure a hell of a lot easier than getting a real job. It's kind of sad, right?
Bum